Hello and good evening, good morning, wherever you may be in the world, and it's lovely to have you join me at this late hour in the United Kingdom. We're on part 25 of the Christian Mystics, and tonight I'm introducing you to a new member of the mystical team, and it's Thurman, Howard Thurman. So let us just begin and just be still as we come into the presence of all that is. And it's good to have Sister Miriam from down under in New Zealand with Molly, and of course our dear Sister Jane. Welcome. And to those not logged in, whoever you may be, you are welcome too. Let us just take a deep breath. And let us breathe in that love, the love of the divine. And now let us breathe out any tiredness, weariness, pain, sadness, disappointment, and share it with Mother Earth. Allow Mother Earth, our beloved Gaia, to release you of all tension or anxiety, feelings of unworthiness, maybe feelings of victimness. Whatever may be troubling you now, just release it, let it go, so that we cross the drawbridge into our interior castle with a sense of exuberation and exhilaration. And now we begin with that beautiful prayer of entry to our interior castle, our soul. I cross the drawbridge into the silent bliss of my castle. I close the drawbridge and forbid all outside influences from entry into this holy place that is my soul. Here in my castle, I am alone with my God, and under God's light and companionship, I discover the depth and the beauty of my soul. I embrace the power of prayer. I open myself to divine guidance, and I surrender myself to become as a channel for grace, healing, service, as God directs my life. Savor those words, for they are the power that releases us from ego self to the interior self and allows us to become instruments of love in the beloved's hands, in service as God directs my life. And now I'm introducing you tonight to Howard Thurman. And this is what Howard says to us this evening. It is natural that man should concern himself with beginnings. This is a part of the curiosity of the mind. Without it, there would be no exploration of the world, and there would be no growth. This is an inherent characteristic of mind. It is not unique to any particular age of man, culture, or society. Contemplation concerning origins is a part of the curiosity of the race. And Matthew Fox says, Thurman underscores our inherent need for cosmology, the curiosity of the race, includes curiosity about our origins, our beginnings, where we come from, where we find ourselves in the universe. All this is cosmology. We ought to be concerned with beginnings. These questions fuel our growths. How often do you wonder about these questions, he asks. Is it something you gave up at the end of your childhood? Today, science is gifting us with a new story of the universe, one that is being understood around the world. We are also learning how our ancestors all came from Africa. A rebirth of wonder follows those who keep their curiosity about origins alive. And Howard Thurman says, Jesus of Nazareth, to some he is the grand prototype of all the distilled longing of mankind for fulfillment, for wholeness, for perfection. To some he is the eternal presence hovering over all the myriad needs of humanity, yielding healing for the sick of body and soul, giving a lift to those whom weariness has overtaken in the long march, and calling out hidden purposes of destiny which are the common heritage. To some, he is more than a presence. He is the God fact, the divine moment in human sin and human misery. To still others, he is a man who found the answer to life's riddle, and out of a profound gratitude, he becomes the man most worthy of honor and praise. Thus interpreted, he belongs to no age, no race, no creed. When men look into his face, they see the etched glory of their own possibilities, and their hearts whisper, "Thank you, and thank you, God." Isn't that beautiful? When men look into his face, they see etched the glory of their own possibilities, and their hearts whisper, "Thank you, and thank you, God." Oh. And Matthew says, do you understand Jesus as a grand prototype of the longing of human beings for fulfillment, or as an eternal presence offering healing to the sick? Do you see Jesus as a presence, as a God fact, as a divine moment in human misery? Do you see him as a person who found an answer to life's riddle? Do you see in his face the glory of your own possibilities? Do you agree that Jesus does not belong to any age, race, or creed? What are the implications of that for you? And Howard Thurman says, what then is the word of the religion of Jesus to those who stand with their backs against the wall? There must be the clearest possible understanding of the anatomy of the issues facing them. They must recognize fear, deception, hatred, each for what it is. Once having done this, they must learn how to destroy these or to render themselves immune to their domination. In so great an undertaking, it will become increasingly clear that the contradictions of life are not ultimate. And Matthew says Thurman sees Jesus as supportive of those who are oppressed and standing with their backs against the wall. I like that. I really like that. He says such people have to look fear and deception and hatred squarely in the eye and become immune to them. Not easy, is it? No denial. Have you undergone such awareness? Since we can't escape fear, deception, and hatred, what are ways we can avoid being controlled by them? Very good question, and one that takes a lot of soul searching. Because we all like to pretend, don't we? We all have different masks, shadows, and it takes a person of real courage, real humility, to name them, to bless them, and to release them to God. Howard Thurman says the disinherited will know for themselves that there is a spirit at work in life and in the hearts of men which is committed to overcoming the world. It is universal, knowing no age, no race, no culture, and no condition of men. For the privileged and the underprivileged alike, if the individual puts at the disposal of the Spirit the needful dedication and discipline, he can live effectively in the chaos of the present, the high destiny of a Son of God. Ooh. Oh, wow. And Matthew says Thurman believes we can live the high destiny of a son or daughter of God in the real world. He believes that the Spirit that teaches us the way is universal and not subject to any age or race or culture. We can achieve this if we put ourselves at the disposal of the Spirit and commit ourselves to dedication and discipline. Have you made such a commitment? And do you feel yourself on a universal path of high destiny? Well, to live the monastic life in the modern world, and we are all called to be monastics, not just the monks and the nuns in the cloisters. No. We are all called to be monastics from the moment we are born. From the first in-breath we take, we are consecrated to God. And on different levels, in different ways, that manifests itself. Even if you're married, even if you're in a loving relationship, you are still a monastic in your spirit. But to live out its fruitfulness and efficacy and nurture that divine oneness in your daily life, I agree with Matthew and Howard. You do need two things. You need dedication and you need discipline, more so in this generation where everything appears to be hedonistic, where people are living for self, for the glorification of their ego, their status symbol, the labels they wear and the clothes they wear. There's such an emphasis today on appearance, isn't there? So it takes a person of real dedication to withstand the onslaught of the media. People are horrified at me because I watch the news on television. I don't watch a lot of television, but I do need to keep abreast of what's happening in the world, so that when I come to pray, I can enter into that mindset with those who are troubled, because they're my brother and sister. Howard Thurman says the evildoer does not go unpunished. Wise words. Life is its own restraint. In the wide sweep of the ebb and flow of moral law over deeds, track us down, and doer and deed meet. You've heard the saying, you can't beat the system. I have encountered many in prison who shared with me, oh, you can beat the system, where they defraud the inland revenue of billions of pounds or thousands of pounds and use it for their own selfish gain. But it's not the inland revenue who owns the money. They're custodians of your money and mine in the taxes you and I have paid. But the system has a way of finding us out. It might take 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, and Brother Rob told me this because he was an inspector of taxes. They catch you out in a form-filling exercise for something totally different. And it might take 5 years, but they will find you, and you cannot beat the system. Matthew Fox says, Thurman is speaking of karma. Wow. The law that we reap what we sow. Is this your belief also, he asks? Do you believe that our moral deeds track us down? Do you? This differs from the idea of an avenging and punitive Father in the sky who prepares a place for us in the fiery pits of hell. But it does, in a gentle way, urge us to take our choices seriously and our responsibilities seriously. I believe that what goes round comes round, and what you put out, you reap. If you put out blessings, kindness, love, and goodness, you reap that in your daily life. But if you put out hatred, anger, it comes back to bite you on the butt. Forgive me. Thurman says the core of the analysis of Jesus is that man is a child of God, the God of life that sustains all of nature and guarantees all the intricacies of the life process itself. Jesus suggests that it is quite unreasonable to assume that God, whose creative activity is expressed even in such details as the hairs of a man's head, would exclude from his concern the life, the vital spirit of the man himself. This idea that God is mindful of the individual is of tremendous import in dealing with fear as a disease. In this world, the socially disadvantaged man is constantly given a negative answer to the most important personal questions upon which mental health depends. Who am I? What am I? And Matthew says, as we've seen, mystics often counsel us to lose our individual selves within the universal divine embrace. However, Thurman calls our attention to how this same embrace can bolster our individual sense of self in vital ways. Whenever human society dismisses us, whether because of our beliefs, our gender, our skin color, or gender preferences, we can give into fear and doubt ourselves, asking, who am I? What am I? The teaching of Jesus and the mystical understanding that we are all children of the God of all life can bolster us in these moments. We can and need to move from fear to self-acceptance. When have you felt the disease of fear threatening your mental health? How did you overcome it? Asks Matthew Fox. How did you overcome it? The awareness of being a child of God tends to stabilize the ego and results in a new courage. Fearlessness and power, says Howard Thurman. He also says, I have seen it happen again and again. When I was a youngster, this was drilled into me by my grandmother. The idea was given to her by a certain slave minister who, on occasion, held secret religious meetings with his fellow slaves. How everything in me quivered with the pulsing tremor of raw energy when, in her recital, she would come to the triumphant climax of the minister. You are not niggers. You are not slaves. You are God's children. This established for them the ground of personal dignity so that a profound sense of personal worth could absorb the fear reaction. This alone is not enough, but without it, nothing else is of value. Oh, I felt uncomfortable reading that word niggers because it's a word that is not allowed in our vocabulary, but in the context here of telling the slaves that you are not a nigger, you are not a slave, but you are a child of God. That for me is just, oh, beautiful. It's like today, because I live with bipolar, with mental illness, some people overreact, especially the professionals like trained nurses, general trained nurses, have not got a good record of caring for colleagues who develop a mental illness such as depression or whatever. I witnessed that in all the years of nursing. General trained nurses are so stigmatizing of colleagues, but I would turn things round and say, I am not mentally ill. I would say, I live with a disability called mental illness, but I am not mentally ill. And it's taken me a long time to come to that place. I live with depression, but it does not own me, because God has given me the grace and the gift through prayer and through meditation to manage the dynamics of, so it does not control me. It is God's grace in me that controls it. And we need to be clear about that, don't we? Or am I wrong? Matthew says Thurman's grandmother, who lived with him when he grew up, was an ex-slave. I didn't know that. She instructed him on many important issues, and this was one of his favorite and most telling stories. Moving beyond the internalized oppression of the oppressor to realizing his own God-likeness. This is where courage, fearlessness, and power arose in his very soul. From this came the ground of personal dignity and a profound sense of personal worth. Wow. How is your sense of personal dignity, and personal worth these days? Like the preacher, do you work to inspire the same in others? Or do you do what many religions have done in the past? Shackle people with your own guilt and have them become your groupies, your religious groupies to feed your ego. How tragic, how sad. Thurman says, precisely what does it mean to experience oneself as a human being? Good question. In the first place, it means that the individual must have a sense of kinship to life, to a life that transcends and goes beyond the immediate kinship of family or the organized kinship that binds him ethnically or racially or nationally. He has to feel that he belongs to his total environment. He has a sense of being an essential part of the structured relationship that exists between him and all other men, and between him, all other men, and the total external environment. As a human being, then, he belongs to life and the whole kingdom of life. That includes all that lives, and perhaps also all that has ever lived. In other words, he sees himself as part of a continuing, breathing, living existence. To be a human being, then, is to be essentially alive in a living world. That is so beautiful. And Matthew says here, Thurman doesn't erase individualism, but urges us all, as mystics do, to move beyond it. We must transcend our ethnic, racial, national, and familial identities to identify with the cosmos itself and all our relations. For as humans, we belong to life and the whole kingdom of life and the entire history of evolution that has brought us here. He personalizes cosmology in this passage. It strikes at an essential paradox. Even though we are individual human beings, we must seek a sense of kinship to life that transcends all particulars. Can you also feel yourself swimming in the endless stream of the river of life? I'd like to. And let's conclude there and just be still. We've gone a little bit above our time. It's just gone 2 minutes past the half hour. Let us just come. Let us just come as an individual, chosen by the divine, anointed by the beloved, to come into God's power within us. We cannot do it on our own, O God, but you have given us a tremendous gift that's not been given to other humans on other galaxies. You've given to each one of us the gift of free will. Empower us here to use that precious gift of free will and say, I surrender. I surrender to your love, your essence, your beingness. I surrender because my heart aches to be a part of you, to be a part of you, O God, in a modern world, to be your hands, to be your feet, to be your beating heart. But first I ask you to help each one of us embrace who we truly are and to discern with your help our soul's purpose. Who am I? What am I? And why am I here at this sacred moment? Speak, O Divine One, and touch our hearts so that we can resurrect from this earth plane and experience nirvana in the company of the beloved, the one who is, who was, and who is to come. Relax now. Relax and embrace all that you are as a unique creation, a co-creator of God, a child of the universe, the beating heart of selfless love. The beating heart of divine cosmic love. Namaste. Shalom inshallah paxit bonum om shanti solo di caritas. Salam alaikum. And may the peace of your God Goddess empower your heart. Surrender to who you truly are, a beloved of the beloved. Thank you for staying with us this evening, and I pray that something of what I've shared with you will resonate deep within your heart in the hours, the days, the weeks, the months to come. I look forward to your company again. Bless you. Bless you.